And what, in fact, are you asking the universe? Because every time a portal opens, and the pink moon is one of the most potent, the frequency you emit becomes the vibrational signature of what you are co-creating, even if you don't realize it. Reality begins to fold around your energy field. And what is still hidden in your inner language, in the unspoken desires and beliefs that you feed in silence, begins to become matter. Therefore, your request is always met, but not always in the way you would like, because the universe responds to vibration, not to superficial intent. At this moment, when the pink moon reveals itself in the heavens, it is not only illuminating the night, it is illuminating what is inside you. It carries the symbolism of flourishing, of a new beginning, of the beauty that emerges after a cycle of pain. And behind the soft shade of pink, there is a subtle force that few understand, the energy of the heart that decides, that affirms, that commands reality with loving steadfastness. This moon does not ask. She declares. She doesn't question it. She trusts. She doesn't negotiate. It vibrates for sure. The question that echoes then is, what are you really declaring with your vibration? Not with beautiful words, but with your daily energy, with the feelings you feed in silence, with the thoughts you repeat before bed. Because the request to the universe is not verbal. He is vibrational. And this moon, which represents an energetic mirror of the soul, reveals if what you have been asking for is consistent with what you are holding. And if it's not, it will show the mismatch. It will reveal where you still sabotage yourself, where you still wish, but do not believe, where you affirm, but do not sustain. The pink moon is known to activate the heart chakra in an intense way. And that is why many feel raw emotions, old homesickness, tears for no reason, or even an inexplicable sense of urgency. She touches what has been repressed. She releases what could not be said. And most importantly, it confronts you with the following truth. Are you ready to be who you say you want to be? Because there is no way to manifest something new by sustaining the old identity. The new requires a radical alignment with its most authentic essence. And the pink moon is a cosmic reminder that the heart is the most powerful compass when it comes to conscious creation. Portals like this do not happen by chance. They are vibrational responses to a collective cycle. And at this very moment, the entire earth is going through a transition where the heart is being called back into command. The mental structures, the old control pacts, the attachment to suffering, as a comfort zone. All of this is being undone, layer by layer, by the subtle tides of consciousness. And the pink moon is one of the softest, and at the same time the most transformative tides. She does not destroy. It dissolves. It does not impose. Invite. But the invitation is serious. Are you willing to become the frequency of what you want? Are you ready to live as if it were already true? Because your request will be met. Always. But if there is doubt, insecurity, or resistance within you, what will manifest will be a distorted version of what you wanted. And then you will call it karma, or testing, or blocking. When, in fact, it's just your vibration being heard accurately. That is why on this moon, more than asking, you must silence, listen, feel, and clear all that stands between you and the truth of your heart. It's not about attracting. It's about allowing. It's not about seeking. It's about remembering, because you are already that which you wish to manifest. But you need to stop doubting. The pink moon says, your request is an order. But before you wish, clean up before manifesting. Line up before ordering. Become. That's the real magic of this portal. He does not bring something from outside. It reveals what was asleep inside you. And if you listen with your heart, you will realize that the universe is already responding. The only question left is, are you prepared to receive what you say you want? There is a subtle, almost invisible mistake that most make on the path of awakening. A mistake that does not seem like a mistake because it disguises itself as a spiritual intention, a goodwill, even a devotional practice. But behind it, there is an energy that blocks, stagnates, and distorts the natural flow of evolution. This mistake is the desire for evolution that is born from the rejection of who you are now. A desire tainted by guilt, comparison, or self-judgment. A desire that says, I need to improve, but deep down is saying, I am not enough as long as this root is active. No technique, no portal, no full moon, not even the pink moon will have the power to sustain your transformation. In a lasting way, true energy growth begins the instant you stop fighting your own shadow. It is not a question of accepting it as one who conforms, but as one who recognizes it as part of the totality that has come to experience. When you move from rejection, you are moving away from the center. And the center is the only place where energy expands with integrity. Because there is only real expansion where there is truth. And if your truth, at this moment, involves pain, doubt, fear, or anger, so be it. To assume this truth is not to fall into the frequency of it, but rather to deactivate the resistance that keeps these emotions trapped in your field. The hidden error is to seek light with shame of darkness. It's wanting the quantum leap without going through the fall that precedes the flight. It is reciting mantras and positive affirmations, while internally feeding the thought that something is still missing to be worthy of manifestation. This vibrational incoherence creates a divided, fragmented energy field where intention cannot become fixed. You desire one thing, but vibrate another. And in this vacuum between desire and truth, energy stagnates. It is not the universe that is silent. It is your frequency that is misaligned with the response. This error is reinforced by a very common pattern, the attempt to speed up the spiritual process to avoid discomfort. The spiritualized ego becomes subtly obsessed with getting there, as if there is a final destination, a stage of enlightenment where everything will be resolved. But the soul does not work with linear goals. It moves in spirals, in cycles, in expansion and retraction movements. And every expansion cycle inevitably calls for a dip in contraction. What you call backtracking may be just the necessary pickup before an even bigger jump, but if you interpret this moment as failure, as a vibrational drop or loss of connection, you interrupt the natural flow of transformation. And here is a truth that few have the courage to look into the eyes. Haste is trauma in disguise. The urge to evolve, to change, to clear, to unlock. It's often just fear of what will arise if you just stop. Fear of what you will feel if you allow yourself to be present in the now. Fear of what you will find if you are not busy improving yourself. And this escape, disguised as spirituality, becomes the greatest obstacle, because it perpetuates the idea that something is wrong with you. And as long as this belief is active, your whole path will be contaminated by an effort that comes not from love, but from inadequacy. Healing begins with a break, a delivery, a moment of quiet surrender where you finally allow yourself to be who you are, exactly as you are, without the desire to fix anything. There is nothing more powerful than that instant of raw presence, because it is in it that you begin to hear your true frequency. And by listening to it, you stop forcing evolution and start allowing it to happen organically. Spiritual energy does not need to be pushed. It blooms when there is space. And space only opens up when you let go of the need to be someone different. So if you feel that you are trying to grow, but you are stuck in the same place. If you realize that even with so much knowledge, you still carry the same weights. Maybe you are stuck in this hidden error. Maybe you're trying to be light, but afraid of your own shadow. Perhaps you are asking for evolution, but rejecting the very aspects of yourself that need to be embraced for this to happen. In this paradox lies the key to releasing stagnation, the key to allowing the portal of the pink moon or any other that comes your way to pass through in its entirety. But for that, it takes courage. The courage to stop running away from you, because true energy growth is not an upward movement. It is a deepening movement. The deeper you go into the truth of what you feel, the higher your soul can expand. And that dive begins now. It begins with the simple but profound decision not to reject any part of yourself anymore. From there, growth ceases to be a goal and becomes a natural state. And the hidden error melts away. Like mist before the sun on the path of awakening, there are traps much more dangerous than ignorance, because ignorance still keeps the seeker in a state of humility. But there is a trap that sets in exactly when knowledge begins to accumulate, when sacred words are decorated, when rituals become routine and spiritual vocabulary fits perfectly in the mouth, but does not vibrate in the heart. This is the subtlest trap, and therefore the most treacherous, the illusion that knowing is the same as being, a dissonance between what is proclaimed and what is lived. And it is in this silent void that the spiritual ego builds its throne. The spiritual trap begins with the unconscious need to belong. Many who awaken feel isolated, disconnected from old social, family, and relational structures. And by finding a community or spiritual language, a new identity begins to form. But this identity, instead of freeing, often imprisons, because it becomes a character, the being of light, the healer, the awakened, the channel. And without realizing it, the seeker begins to live to sustain this image. He begins to say what he is expected to say, to feel what he thinks he should feel, to hide everything that does not fit into the narrative of the high being. This is how deception is born. The spirituality that masks rather than reveals this trap is fueled by a distorted idea of perfection, as if evolving meant no longer feeling anger, no doubting, no falling, no making mistakes, as if a spiritual being is immune to human contradictions. But the soul did not come to deny humanity, it came to inhabit it entirely with presence and consciousness. And every time you reject a part of yourself as unspiritual, you are moving away from your center. It's losing steam, because true spiritual power is not in appearing enlightened. It's about being radically true to who you are, even when it challenges the idealized image you've created. The trap deepens when spiritual language begins to be used as a defense. The person says, "I have already transmuted this," when in fact, he has only repressed. Say, "This is only ego," so as not to welcome one's own suffering. Uses high vibration speech to avoid difficult conversations, discomforts, emotional responsibilities. Spirituality becomes a shield, a varnish on a pain that has never really been looked at. This generates an internal split that prevents any real expansion. Because no technique, no meditation, no mantra can sustain a high vibration if it is being used to escape the truth, and it must be said firmly, the denial of what one feels, even with beautiful words, is a form of internal violence, one that silences the intuition, blocking the flow, emptying the real connection with the divine. Spiritual energy does not require perfection. She demands presence. And that presence is only possible when you abandon the effort to be something beyond what you are now. when you allow yourself to be whole with light, with shadow, with raw truth. It is in this space of wholeness that the spirit can manifest without distortion. The spiritual trap also manifests itself in comparison. When the seeker begins to measure his journey by the ruler of the other. When you believe that those who channel more are higher. Those who meditate longer are more connected. That he who speaks to more entities is more pure. All this is ego disguised as devotion. Because true spiritual connection is not proven. She lives herself. She becomes silent, humble, present. The more one truly awakens, the less need one has to appear awake. Less desire to convince. More desire to simply live in truth. Genuine spirituality is a path of constant detachment from ideas, from characters, from needs for validation. And that's painful, because the ego feeds on structure and the soul lives in flow. The spiritual trap, however subtle, can keep you trapped in cycles of energetic repetition for years. You may think you are evolving, when in fact you are just walking in circles inside a mental temple created to avoid confrontation with what still hurts. And this cycle is broken only when you dare to disassemble the spiritual character and allow the soul to breathe without a mask, when you allow yourself to fall without fear of looking weak. When you admit that you still feel anger, sadness, confusion, even after so many courses, retreats, and initiations. When you stop trying to prove yourself to the spiritual world and simply surrender. That's when true strength begins to emerge. Because the soul does not need you to be perfect. She needs you to be authentic. She doesn't ask you to light up. She asks you to reveal yourself, and so the trap falls apart. When you exchange the search for appearance for the search for truth. When you understand that there is no level to achieve, but layers to undress. When you realize that the greatest spiritual uplift is, paradoxically, the most human of all, to be present with all that is, without trying to change anything, just allowing consciousness to illuminate that which was once shadow.